In 1973, a young Marine Corps veteran stood in a bank, staring at his company's account. The balance? $5,000. His planes needed $24,000 in jet fuel by Monday morning, or they'd never leave the ground again. His investors had walked away. His employees hadn't been paid. The company was days from vanishing forever. So he did something no sane CEO would ever do. He took that last $5,000 and flew to Las Vegas. Today, that company moves 16 million packages every single day. It earns over $90 billion a year. You've held its envelopes, you've watched for its trucks. Its name became a verb. This is the story of FedEx and the insane bet that saved it. This is how they did it. Rewind to the 1960s. A Yale student named Fred Smith had a problem stuck in his head. America was changing, computers were spreading, businesses needed parts, documents, and medicine delivered fast, not in a week, overnight. But the system to do it didn't exist. The post office was slow. Airlines only carried packages where their passengers happened to be flying. Need a small part shipped across the country by tomorrow? You were out of luck. So Smith wrote a term paper describing a company that would fly urgent packages anywhere in America, overnight. Legend says his professor was unimpressed and gave him a C. Smith didn't argue. He shipped out to Vietnam, served 2 tours as a Marine, and watched how the military moved mountains of supplies with ruthless precision. When he came home, he couldn't let the idea go. In 1971, he poured his $4 million family inheritance into it, raised tens of millions more, and launched Federal Express. It was one of the biggest startups in American history before it had delivered a single package, and it nearly destroyed him. Here's how audacious this really was. Smith didn't call it Federal Express by accident. He was courting the Federal Reserve as a potential customer, and he wanted a name that sounded national, official, and unstoppable. Think about what he was actually building. Not just a delivery service, but an airline, a trucking company, and a giant sorting empire, all at the same time for a product no customer had ever asked for. Most founders test a small idea, prove it works, and then scale it up carefully. Fred Smith did the exact opposite. He bet everything on day one at a scale so enormous that failure wouldn't merely sting, it would be catastrophic. There was no small version of this idea. It was all, or it was nothing. Here's where it gets strange. Every logistics expert believed the same obvious thing. To ship a package from city A to city B, you move it directly. Boston to New York? Send it straight. It's simple. It's efficient. And Fred Smith threw it out. His idea sounded insane. Rather than sending each package straight to its destination, he chose to route absolutely everything, no matter its origin or endpoint, through a single hub in the heart of the country. Memphis, Tennessee. Each night, aircraft from all over the nation would touch down there. Crews would unload every shipment, sort the entire load in a matter of hours, and load it all back onto different planes headed out before dawn. A parcel traveling from Boston to New York would, strangely enough, first travel nearly 900 miles in the opposite direction, land in Memphis, and only then head to its real destination. People mocked the plan. It seemed inefficient, it seemed backwards. But Smith understood something the skeptics missed. A single central hub, one sorting point. Route every city through that one place, and you eliminate the need for a direct path between every possible pair of cities. You need just one elegant system. This became known as the hub and spoke model, and it was on the verge of reshaping the industry. On April 17, 1973, Federal Express officially began operations. A fleet of 14 small aircraft flew in, met at Memphis, and delivered a total of 186 packages across 25 cities. That was the entire launch, 186 packages. Meanwhile, the company was hemorrhaging more than $1 million every month. Then things got worse. The oil crisis of 1973 struck. Fuel costs skyrocketed. Expenses that were already unbearable became unsustainable. Investors backed out. Banks refused further funding. That's the moment Fred Smith looked at a bank balance of $5,000 and decided on a desperate move. He boarded a flight to Las Vegas and took a seat at a blackjack table. By the time he walked away, that $5,000 had turned into $27,000. He sent it straight back to the business. just enough to pay for fuel and keep the fleet airborne for another week. It's difficult to fully capture how near collapse the company actually came. There were stretches where Fred Smith went without a paycheck himself, just to make sure others got paid. Pilots reportedly charged jet fuel to their own credit cards to keep flights running. Staff members delayed cashing their paychecks, worried the company's account wouldn't cover them. Consider that for a moment. These were people staying loyal to something Wall Street, the banking world, and nearly every expert had already given up on. This wasn't a company cruising smoothly towards success. It was a handful of loyal believers and one relentlessly determined founder fighting to keep a vision alive, week after brutal week. When someone on his team questioned how he could risk the company's final funds like that, Smith supposedly responded with a shrug. Does it really matter? Without that money, the planes weren't flying anyway. That risky move earned the company breathing room. And Smith capitalized on it, going on to secure close to $91 million in additional funding to keep the business afloat. But what he was really offering customers wasn't just shipping, it was peace of mind. By 1978, a now famous tagline captured exactly what FedEx stood for: when it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight. He introduced shipment tracking, so customers always had visibility into where their package was. He owned the aircraft, the trucks, and the sorting facilities, the whole operation, so that no outside party controlled the promise he was making. The infrastructure itself had become the product. He built the planes, the trucks, the sorting hub, the entire machine, so no one else controlled his promise. The system was the product, and while sleeping giants like the Postal Service and UPS moved slowly, FedEx quietly did something no one else had. In 1979, it began tracking packages with computers, years before anyone else believed that mattered. Before long, a courier could scan a single package and tell you exactly where it was at any moment. To customers, it felt like magic. To competitors, it was a slow-motion nightmare. Because FedEx wasn't just moving boxes faster than everyone else, it was quietly building an information network that happened to carry packages. The planes were visible. The real weapon was invisible. It was the data, and for years and years, no competitor could figure out how to catch up. So did the crazy bet pay off? By 1975, FedEx was finally profitable. In 1978, it went public. And in 1983, just 10 years after those first 186 packages, Federal Express became the first American company in history to hit $1 billion in revenue without buying another company to get there. It grew entirely on the strength of its own idea. Today, FedEx flies around 700 aircraft, making it one of the largest airlines on Earth, and it never carries a single passenger. It employs over 500,000 people. It moves roughly 16 million shipments a day. That laughable little hub in Memphis is now one of the busiest cargo airports on the planet. And FedEx didn't just become a company, it became a verb. Every time someone says they'll FedEx it, they're describing an entire idea a professor supposedly graded a C. The wrong way package that flew to Memphis first rewrote how the whole world moves. But make no mistake, the road was never flawless. In the 1980s, FedEx bet big on a futuristic service called Zapmail, transmitting documents electronically between its offices. It flopped badly, costing the company around $340 million. Even a visionary like Fred Smith could misfire, and misfire expensively. But then he did exactly what the greatest founders do. He admitted it, killed the project, and moved on without flinching. And in 1989, FedEx bought Flying Tigers, a struggling international cargo airline, and transformed almost overnight from an American company into a truly global one. The wrong way package that once flew to Memphis was now flying to the entire world. So what can you actually steal from Fred Smith and FedEx? Lesson 1. Solve a problem people can't yet name. Nobody was asking for overnight shipping because they didn't know it was possible. Smith didn't chase demand. He created it. Lesson 2. The counterintuitive path is the moat. Flying packages the wrong way through one hub looked insane, which is exactly why no one copied it fast enough. Your weirdest idea might be your biggest advantage. Lesson 3. Sell certainty, not service. People didn't pay FedEx for shipping. They paid for the guarantee it would arrive. Remove someone's fear, and you can name your price. Lesson 4. Own the whole system. Smith didn't rent his promise from the airlines. He built the planes, the hub, the tracking, everything. Control the machine that keeps your promise. Lesson 5. Survival is a strategy. The Vegas story is wild, but the real lesson isn't gambling. It's that a founder will do almost anything to buy one more week. Sometimes winning is just refusing to die today. Every business goes through hard seasons. Fred Smith's lasted years and came down to $5,000 on a blackjack table. What's your business going to do with your next hard week, your next $5,000? If this gave you one insight, share it with someone building something. I'll see you in the next one.